Path of Exile 2's patch 0.1.1 has arrived, bringing substantial updates to enhance our journey through Raycast. But in this video, I'll give a quick breakdown of the important bits, trying to streamline what you need to know. If you want a more detailed look, I'll drop the link to the patch notes below. This is going to be a more short and sharp version of some of my videos recently. Let me first get a few of the major changes that probably got a little overlooked out of the way, such as runes. Let's dive in. So let's get into a few real quick ones just to start off. Like I mentioned, runes. I think we've all been waiting for this change. We can now overwrite runes that you've put into a socket. You no longer have to worry about destroying that item if you needed to change the rune. You simply overwrite the rune. You do lose that rune, that is still destroyed or soul core. However, you are able to overwrite it. This is a massive update from GGG, and I feel that they've really listened to the community with this one, so thumbs up first. Flasks can now be salvaged, the ones that have quality, so that you can get glass blowers baubles. I don't know about you, but I've been holding on to these knowing that it was likely they were going to do it. More monsters are now also able to be pushed while dodge rolling. Again, another significant buff that should help us prevent those unwarranted deaths where we're stuck in a corner. Plus, an overlooked one will be the fact that now on your atlas you can see when any of these additional bonuses have been done. They now have a big X through them. Minor one that is possibly overlooked is the fact that Alva can now be used for gambling of items. I don't know about you, but I found that in the hideout you had minimal choice for gambling of items. A much needed update was the fact that armor has also been made more effective by approximately 15%. Now, I don't know if this is going to make enough of a difference for armor based builds, but we'll soon see, I guess. Charms now display how many uses they have down at the bottom. You can see on the screen now that you can see these have 2 of 2, 1 of 1 uses available. The last of these quick tips now before we move into the more general stuff. They made changes to the strongbox fog effect, which now fades away once all the waves of enemies have been spawned, and the strongbox's enemies should spawn a lot faster, making strongboxes potentially more viable. So let's talk about the atlas and the maps. The endgame experience has been improved quite dramatically, I would say, with the addition of 4 new tower maps for one. So if you hover over all of the maps now, so if I look at these towers, we have the new Bluff, Mesa, Alpine Ridge, and I believe the last one is Sinking Spire. So there are 4 new tower maps. Additionally, the Lost Tower maps have kind of had a significant revamp, as these are basically mandatory in the end game. It got quite stale to run the same layout of those towers. Having the lower part of the towers also meant that no one enjoyed going into those rooms where you couldn't see what was ahead of you. All of a sudden you go into that room and you get destroyed because you didn't know there was a load of chaos damage monsters in there. So what they've done is change the tile set so that it is the top level of those towers so that you have better visibility. With regards to maps also, it's worth mentioning they made a lot of changes to map sustain, making changes to how often maps drop, how often those waystones become available, different ways to obtain them. So if you've been finding it difficult to keep those maps sustained during the late game, you should see an increase in the drops. I know I've ran a few maps this morning and already found way more maps. Exploration within the maps has also been refined with the introduction of the checkpoints, ensuring kind of smoother progression, I suppose, throughout the maps themselves. Each map also now contains a minimum of 3 rare monsters, meaning you get more of a challenge and more of a reward per map. Additionally, a massive one that I think is a huge improvement to the Atlas and this endgame is the fact that citadels can appear closer to your original ziggurat, but also they are visible on the endgame map. As you can see here, if I scroll up into this fog, you see these 2 beams. These will be citadels. This is huge because prior to this, we had no real way of knowing what direction these were in. An additional change that's kind of harder to see at this point is the fact that they have promoted a more diverse gameplay in the map areas. Now, what do I mean by this? What they've done is they've adjusted the maps themselves to have more distinct specializations. Some maps now spawn with up to double the amount of chests or shrines, while others contain significantly more monsters. Additionally, certain maps have increased chances for essence or strong boxes, and it kind of encourages players to strategize their map selection based on their desired content. A kind of small UI update to go with this is the fact that when you hover over any map, it actually now tells you the biome of that map. You can see here on this Bloodwood, it says biome forest. Now let's move on to some of the items in the game that they've made changes to. So first up, they've added an Overseer's Precursor tablet, so a new tablet that you can put into the towers, and this one will add map bosses to any maps within the radius that it does have a valid tile set for a map boss. So there are some tile sets that don't have bosses. It won't add them to those. These tablets drop from map bosses themselves and can roll exclusive modifiers affecting map bosses, adding a new layer of strategy to endgame content as some of the higher loot pools come from map bosses. In addition, they have made substantial changes to some of the uniques in the game. So some of the feedback they were getting was that the uniques didn't feel very rewarding, you weren't overly enthused when you found them. So what they've done is change some of those early game uniques to be far more rewarding to help you progress as well. Finding unique should be a very positive experience, and I was finding that it wasn't all that good. I'm not going to go through all the changes made to every single unique. As you can see as I scroll down here, there are lots of changes. What is worth saying here though is that if you are running any specific uniques in your build, check out what changes they've made. I don't know if they're going to substantially change that build you have or not. You need to check it out. Finally, let's talk about monsters and boss changes. They've made a lot of changes to monsters that were able to attack you from off the screen. As an example, the Lost Men Zealots that could use a meteor skill from off screen, or the Faradon Plague Bringers that could use Detonate Dead. They've tried to reduce that by making sure that A, moves are more telegraphed, and B, they need to be on the screen when they're doing them. Visual effects of a lot of the attacks have been augmented and adjusted so that you are able to see when these things are going to happen. They've reduced leap distance and throw distance of axes for the Varl Axeman as an example. There's a lot of different little changes that I think you may not notice as you're moving around immediately. However, the overall feel of the monsters should be slightly easier. I think they've tried to tweak it to make it at least more playable and give you more information of what you're doing. Now, if you're one of the people that's lucky enough to have got to the Arbiter of Ash, then you are in luck. One of the problems that this had is that you only ever had one attempt to kill it. Players now have those 6 respawn attempts during the boss fight encounter, depending on the difficulty level. These changes allow for a bit more of a balanced and less punishing experience, and they've made several adjustments to his abilities as well, including increase in vulnerability duration during emergence and reduced likelihood of targeting minions with its sword attack. All in all, I feel that the changes they made to the bosses and monsters have tweaked the difficulty for that endgame kind of content dramatically. So I think I'll wrap up there. There are a host of other updates. I think it's an 18-page document full of various updates and changes and bug fixes. Feel free to look through it in greater depth, but I think the pieces that I've gone through are the most important. In summary, patch 0.1.1 brings a host of improvements, from endgame content expansions to quality of life enhancements to enrich the overall PoE 2 experience. What are your thoughts on the changes? Share your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Path of Exile 2 content. Please check out my video here of top 10 tips, as well as a bit of an endgame guide. I'd appreciate any love and support. I've been JammyGiraffe, sending the positivity as always. Jammy out.